Hi, I'm Hawk. I'm going to show you how to make this jumpsuit. It's a simple jumpsuit. It's not very difficult. It seems daunting. It's a full jumpsuit. It took me 7 hours. This is a medium, so it's 3.5 yards of fabric, 4 yards for a large, 4.5 for an extra large. It's got a 22-inch zipper, which was $4, Velcro, which was also about $4, 2 yards of interfacing, altogether $28 start to finish for a jumpsuit. These are great for crewmen, for TIE pilots, bridge crew, scanning crew, X-Wing pilots, Carillion pilots. It's a very versatile jumpsuit. It's also the base of quite a few jumpsuits, or quite a few costumes, I mean. It's not difficult to make. It's just time consuming and tedious. We're gonna go step by step. I'm gonna show you how to do this from start to finish. It's not difficult. It's gonna be about 11 videos, so it's gonna be an in-depth process, but by the time you're done, you'll A, know your machine, and B, have a pretty good costume piece. So there it is, bridge crew, TIE pilot jumpsuit. This is a medium, and it's 3.5 to 4 inches, or 3 inches, 3.5 to 4 yards long. Now to cut them out. What I normally do is I'll cut them out, put them in a bag, throw a name on it, and then work from the bag. I tend to do 2 or 3 at a time. It's just easier. If it's set up, it's set up. On to ironing. I tend to lay out as much ironing as I can so I can take care of it all at once. And this is pretty easy. I use fusible interfacing, 950F to be exact. Just put it down, give it about 5-10 seconds. That's unfortunate. Okay, I had a project recently that used double-sided interfacing, and for some reason it got mixed up with my normal interfacing. It's not a big deal. The only thing you have to keep in mind when you're doing something like that is if you're going to be ironing it, it's interfacing, you have to iron it. Make sure you put down parchment paper so the interfacing doesn't fuse to your iron. Things like this happen all the time. It's not a big deal. At least it's what I keep telling myself. So I'm just ironing all of the interfacing in place. That's it. I like to sort all of my pieces by general location. Like I'll put all the sleeve stuff onto the sleeve, all the pants stuff onto the pants. It's just a little easier to keep everything organized that way. less to worry about, less to think about. And the less I have to think, the less I can mess up. So the first step we're going to do at this point is we're going to take all of the pocket reinforcement, the curved pieces that were interfaced, and we're going to do a zigzag stitch over the edge. I do this to lock the stitch in place so it doesn't unweave itself in the pocket. And that's what this is. This is just back and forth over the edge. It's an overlock stitch. I could use a serger, but you know, I'm not gonna. So here, I tend to fold the pieces over and pin them in place just so I can see where the Velcro needs to land on the pocket flaps and the cuff tabs. It's just easier than trying to measure and hope I'm in the right place. This way there's no mistaking where everything goes. I just pin the sides down, take my piece of hook and loop. Since it's the pocket flap and the Velcro will be facing the body, you put the fuzzy side down first. At this point, I'm just marking and measuring. I'm going a 1/2 inch from the bottom and then centering the tab wherever it lands. Then a pin. And repeat the process for the other pockets. I like to batch as much common out as I can. So we'll do all the Velcro. The Velcro is standard number 4 for my machine, which is just a zigzag stitch. I know it's going to be kind of hard to see, but I'll try and zoom in a minute. I tend to start on the back part because when you pull, there's more tension there than anywhere else. And I'm just going back and forth over the edge. And once more over this. So, it's a little hard to see. Let me go grab one of my oranges. So, as you can see, a little bit over, focus, focus. I'll put up a still. So there's 2 cuffs, 2 leg pockets, and 1 arm pocket. If you're doing orange, it's 4 leg pockets. If you're doing green, it's also 4 leg pockets. So it's just the same thing. Same thing with the pockets. Hook and loop tape. Now for pockets. You go right side to right side. I tend to pin. I go off of the interfacing. Not terribly worried about it lining perfectly up because I only have 1/2 inch of seam allowance. have 3 pockets and 2 cuff tabs. I don't even know what to call these things. I put 2 pins at the bottom here because that's where my stitch starts and stops. So if I start here, I go all the way around and I stop here, so I can turn it inside out right there, or right side out right there, I mean. And then the same thing for the cuffs. And now we sew. For these, I just start at the back. I do a little bit of a reinforced seam. I stitch right over the pins. A little bit of back, a little bit of forward, turn. And I'm going right along the edge of the interfacing here. So I'm not terribly worried about the fabric lining up. And we'll just continue on with the next. Now I normally do 3 or 4 jumpsuits at a time, so these can just trail and trail and trail. We're going to cut it this time. Move on to pocket flaps. It's pretty much the same thing. Alright, now for the pockets, I have a little opening right here, not that you can see, to where I can flip it inside out when I need to. I'm just going to continue on with the other 3 doing the exact same thing.
That's it.
All right, we pulled out the pins. Now every corner needs to be nipped. So when we turn it right side out, we have things bunching weirdly in the corners. The closer you get to your thread without cutting it, the crisper your corner is going to be. Basically what you want is this line here, and this angle should be less than 90 degrees. That way you have room in your corner. Same thing with the big ones, the pocket flaps. All corners. I like using a chapstick. Good for getting into those hard to reach corners. Push one corner through, turn the whole thing inside out, run your chopstick along the edge. Nice neat pocket flap. Along the edge. There it goes. Two pocket flaps. Those, and now for these. These are the same thing. Just put a point, push it in, slide it down. Now these are finished. We have to put a seam on them, and that's it, and then they get attached later. And now we're going to sew along the side and the bottom. There's the hook and loop, sewing on the other side. On my sewing machine, I set it to a 0 and a 1, which means all the way to the left, 1 millimeter over from this edge. I find that's the perfect stitch for this. So we want to be 1 mil from this edge. And then just lightly stitch. Stop when we get to the end and turn. Now this is where the opening is, and this stitch closes that opening. Give it a nice pull, make everything nice and even. And turn. Move on to the next. And then the last pocket flap. Let's go one more. And then the cuff tabs. And this one I pinned down just cuz. This one I did not pin down, so we can compare and see if there's a difference between pinning and not pinning. So now we just cut everything apart. Pull the pins and we should be good to go. Alright, so we got with pins and without pins. Not really a noticeable difference. Oh, fringe there's because I was a little too close to my line. Not a noticeable difference. This didn't take me too much longer than this did. If you feel more comfortable pinning everything, pin everything. Nobody's gonna sit here and make fun of you. At least I won't. So now I prefer mine to be double stitched. So I put it dead center of this foot, which makes it roughly 3/8 from the edge. And then I run the edge of this foot just all along the same thing we just stitched. I think it gives it a nice finished look. It's stronger. Helps lock everything down. And as usual, I will just daisy chain everything right across. This one seems to be upside down. Now I'm going to do a simple zigzag stitch right across this edge just to lock everything in. Just because I don't want it fraying on me. And then the last thing we do at this stage is put the other side of the Velcro, put the other side of the hook and loop tape on here, because these things are very, very easy to lose. There you go. Pocket flaps, done. That's a good place to stop. Next video, we'll pick up and put all the chest pieces together. So it shouldn't be too difficult. Remember, one step at a time, you can do this.